Hi, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. 1, it's free. 2, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. 3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. 4, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And 5, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Enjoy! Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of Market or Pitch, the news and trends podcast from a Vantage Black and Brown perspective. I'm Yesenia and one half of the squad. And to the opposite end of the spectrum is the other half of the Market or Pitch team, my good friend, Corey Davis.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. I'm glad you guys decided to join us for this episode, and we can't wait to dive into some interesting hot topics.
It's been a real whirlwind of several weeks, Corey. There's so many things going on in our world right now. It's like you literally gotta pick the needle off of the haystack.
Yes, and the past 2 weeks between politics and sports in the intersection between the two going on, and also with COVID cases that were falling dramatically. Now we're seeing that they're holding steady and kids getting vaccinated. There's been so much news going on, and even within that, the PR and marketing world has kind of been reacting around these different news topics. So I'm excited to really get into like a true news headline-esque show today.
That is correct, Corey, and it's great that you really touch on all those points, because today's episode, season 2, episode 4, by the way, is going to be very much news-centric. We're going to be adding a dose of that marketing and PR spin to important societal issues that have been dominating the headlines over the last 2 weeks. So kick back, relax, grab yourself a glass of wine, and enjoy this conversation, because there's definitely going to be a lot of relevant points to be said.
You know what's funny? Everyone says, so this is just my antidote. I was going to say wind down, but you know what? Let's. I'll say cocktail down. Grab a nice whiskey. You want something strong, something that with some bite, because I have some interesting opinions on this topic. And by the way, I'm saying this. I really don't know what the topic is. Yesenia is going to surprise me on the topic, but she gave me a little preview that it is going to be a little spicy. So we are definitely going to need something to cool off our entree for, but I'm excited for it, and whatever opinion I'm going to have, I'm just going to run with it. So please email us, and or even in general, I will say before we get started, please make sure to email us, tweet us, send us a DM on Instagram, Market or Pitch on all platforms, and we can definitely engage. We can definitely open to maybe having a guest or just hearing your opinion on if you agree with us. That's awesome. If you don't, I want to hear from your perspective as well.
And that, Corey, rings so true. You actually ran down the mountain of things that needed to be said. And I really think this is setting up to be a very informative, relevant, and basically a hot button topic type of conversation. So maybe you might want to grab yourself a glass of tequila and really bring it down. But on top of all that, before we truly dive in, don't forget, Market or Pitch is also available across all major podcasting mediums. Every new episode, and as well as the past ones, can also be seen on our official YouTube channel. So look up Market or Pitch. The podcast itself, as well as the intermission series, can also be heard on Thursday mornings on the Helium Radio Network. And don't forget, the Market or Pitch team is also an official part of the Wisdom family. So if you haven't yet, download the Wisdom app and find us at Market or Pitch, where both Corey and I will be making our presence known and talking about topics from the marketing, PR, thought leadership, and even general news. So come find us there. We are very much eager to have those conversations. So, Corey, Are you ready to really get into this spicy news-centric episode?
Let's get it. Let's get it going.
All right, so we're diving into the first part of the show, the appetizer course, and this particular topic is going to be centered around the influencer economy. Obviously, everybody knows now that we are currently under a gig economy where individuals are harboring more than one job in order to sustain either an affordable quality of life living or trying to advance further in their respective careers. But an interesting article that popped out from Adweek comes from the author Eric Danon, where it's titled "We're All Part of the Influencer Economy Now," where he talks about how the entire landscape has changed ever since the ripple effects of 2020 with COVID and as well as the racial justice movements. But we're also seeing a steady but gradual e-commerce growth that paved the way for a 10-year acceleration point of the entire landscape as more and more individuals are centering in on influencer marketing. And we are seeing, just how powerful and influential individuals promoting many different brands and services are are doing right now. And so the 2020 acceleration in e-commerce just didn't push up the demand for influencer marketing, but it also kickstarted a rapid maturation of the digital commerce sector. And there is a major seismic shift, and not only in the retail space, but also in other industries as well, as we try to figure out more ways to analyze this phenomenon. And so, Corey, I want to, bring you into the loop, since obviously influencer marketing has been making its mark over the last several years. And now we've really seen it truly explode everywhere. And so what is your opinion about it being dubbed the influencer economy?
So I definitely think we're in the wild, wild west right now. So the influencer, I feel influencer marketing, how it is today, it's kind of similar to how podcast and I mean, and speak of the devil, we're in a podcast, but how podcast advertising kind of started out maybe a decade ago, where it was the wild, wild west, unregulated. It really didn't have a lot of rules. So I think now with even though the FCC really, the federal government does have rules on how influence marketing needs to be notified or called out in potential posts. But coming from a marketing advertising perspective, when I tell my clients, the problem is measurement. And how do you actually measure which influencer is actually causing people to support your brand, or which influencer are helping you move your brand forward. And then the other side, besides measurement issues and how to measure the success or the not success of influencer marketing, it's how do you determine where does the influencer a personal opinion begins, and then where does their personal opinions end. So sometimes in the mix of, and I've seen for influencers and the marketing around it, brands have got themselves in trouble because yes, they get a nice, perfectly good ad from a top influencer and they get a lot of engagement. But on the next post, that influencer is saying, and this is just for example, saying, don't take the vaccine because the vaccine is terrible. So now people are going to attribute, okay, brand XYZ, are you also under the same opinion? Because one post ago, this influencer who's the new de facto representative of your company is saying these views. So it's just one area where I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation in the next few years. We're going to see a lot more companies trying to figure out ways to measure influencer marketing and how to actually show engagement with sales. And I think that's really is a critical element that we're missing with influencer marketing, in my opinion.
You know what I find intriguing, Corey, is I've always explained to my clients that depending as to the kind of content that you want to promote, it could be like for profits, it could be a service or an actual product itself. But from a nonprofit standpoint, it's the program, the people who they serve, the volunteers, and many other relevant individuals. But I've always told them that depending as to the amount of resources that you have, you need to figure out which platforms are going to best serve your needs. And the same thing can be said for influencer marketing. There are many different types of influencers right now who are becoming much more native to social media. And ultimately, its effectiveness is to maximize engagement. You're trying to sell something at the end of the day. And so in order for you to connect with audiences, you need to figure out who are those influencers, and then some aspects figure out the platforms that that those particular audiences live, and then figure out ways to create a messaging strategy that directly ties to what they're seeking. And so I'm very so here's my question with all of this: how can companies figure out ways to identify when it comes to in this influencer economy, ways for them to utilize influencers to maximize their impact?
Yeah, and that really is the question. And I think for each brand, they're going to have to determine how they're going to go about that, or how can they even determine success. And I do want to take a step back. I actually do think, as far as engagement goes, as far as translating marketing to dollars, I do like influencer marketing. I do like when I'm scrolling through Instagram or my other social media feeds, seeing somebody who I'm interested in, and seeing somebody who I follow advertise a product. I actually do I may not buy it, but I do take a second out of my day to actually look at the product they're promoting to see if it works out. So I definitely feel like it's a high producing and a high level of engagement compared to other forms of advertisement or marketing. But I do want to see some more regulation around it. I do want to see some more metrics shown and proven around if is this level of engagement and marketing truly successful. Because yeah, a lot of people crap on television and radio and some of the other uh, linear linear media types have been around for decades, and then even now in digital video and etc. But that's because we actually have metrics that we can measure the success of it, and we can actually show that because of this ad, we saw a lift in this product. Influencer marketing, we don't have that. It's just the feeling
Yeah.
we have to come across. So I think it's all interesting, and I definitely think over the next few years you're going to see some more tightening and consolidation, and you're going to see a lot less influencers really getting those dollars across.
And that's a particularly good point, and I'll wrap it up with this. We all know it's obvious that the social media platforms are deeply tied to the ability to help businesses generate revenue. And as social becomes even more integrated in every stage of the product or customer journey, people are trying to figure out new ways as to how to make the product stand out, and as well as figuring out new ways to purchase that product. The old digital playbook is out. It's no more. I mean, the customer journey is not linear. And so I think what companies or brands are understanding is that the creators are truly the linchpin of social commerce. They're the ones who are very much so like content driven in persuading audiences, to take up, a particular product or service. In some aspects, these social platforms are capturing advertising dollars and treating, these influencers like competition. But now they're also realizing the power of what influencers bring to the table to drive up those sales. And so I think it's, what we're seeing is a condensation of these social of the of I should say, the condensation of these social media platforms and influencers coming together in order to bring trust and validation into the social media space. And of course, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that with those two things consolidating itself, it's going to benefit the brands even more because it's going to generate more profit.
Agree.
And so, if there's anything else, my good friend, that you want to add on this influencer economy that is ravaging up before our very eyes?
No, I think, like you said, we should just stay tuned because you're gonna see some more regulation around it.
All right, and so with that, that wraps up our appetizer course. Definitely, if you have any comments, questions about this particular topic, don't hesitate to email us at marketerpitch@gmail.com, and also comment on our social media platforms. Tell us your thoughts. We will definitely keep our eyes and ears on this issue. And so now moving on to the entree course, and so. I thought the last three episodes we've been missing the dessert. And so I am determined to bring the dessert section into this episode. And so what I've decided to do is that we're going to be doing a double combination. Both the entree and dessert courses will be served to you all simultaneously. So Corey, you better get that stomach and as well as that whiskey shot ready to go.
Oh, I'm ready. Two shots in already, so let's go.
All right, so let's kick right into it to both the entree and the dessert rounds. So obviously, there's been a lot going on the last 2 weeks. The news headlines have been dominated by both the off year of the 2021 elections and and the COVID situation. And so I kind of find it interesting that these two particular stories both intersected and or intertwined to one another, because it basically, summarizes the current state of many stages, I should say, of our current society right now. And so there was this particular, obviously, so the first half of of this course centers around recent news that Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, tested positive for COVID-19. But the reason why this has blown up into such a huge fiasco is because he lied. He lied to the media saying that he got the vaccine when in reality he didn't. So he was unvaccinated. And so there has been so much tremendous controversy, surrounding Rodgers and his reasoning behind it. Though I will admit, though, as a PR communicator, Aaron Rodgers should have been honest from the very beginning. And so technically, he shot himself in the foot for not admitting the truth in the first place. But anyway, going back to, the situation, there was this particular article from the New Yorker, and that's titled "The Selfish Individualism of Aaron Rodgers," where it states that the Green Bay quarterback's semi-rebellious attitude once seemed almost charming, but his attitude towards the NFL's vaccine mandate has exposed his self-absorption. Now, listen to the word, in that sub-headline, the vaccine mandate. Now, I'm going to bring this out because the vaccine mandate has been very much a hot topic across this country, how people have been very much been against mandatory vaccine mandates that have been popping not only across all industry sectors throughout corporate America, but also the entire country overall, which is, affecting people's livelihoods, because there are people who legitimately are concerned with the vaccine and they're not taking it because of, of those reasons. And so the vaccine mandate was one of the many critical topics that, again, we're going to transition over to the election of this past year. Typically, it's an off year. Nobody really pays attention. But this year was particularly different. I mean, the fact that what we're seeing is yet again another seismic shift where, let's just be bluntly honest, the Democrats got befuddled. They got annihilated. As the Republican faction basically, took control for the lack of the Democrats' faction's incompetence on both the policy and the messaging fronts. And so, Corey, I want to bring you in the loop because, again, both of this entree and dessert plates are basically combined together to what has been basically, at least from a communications standpoint, a major messaging flaw. And so I want to bring you in and inject that marketing, that marketing juice. It's been well chronicled that companies have not been very direct and factual with the messaging surrounding the pandemic, and it has affected all aspects. And so, Corey, want to bring you in and get your thoughts on both of these issues.
Yeah, and the unfortunate part, and this is coming, and I'm a very optimistic guy. I believe there's always a better tomorrow. But in this case, I think I'm gonna be a little negative and be a little realist, because I unfortunately think like the cat's out of the bag. And what's happened, and like you just said, companies and brands have consistently, and even people have consistently given false information after false information after false information surrounding the pandemic. So now we're at a place where it's tough to say like, okay, all of a sudden now I'm telling the truth because you've said that before.
Yeah.
And when can I actually start believing you? When can I actually think that anything that's coming across is telling the truth?
Yeah.
So because of that, which I think a lot of it has been delivered from certain factions, but because of this inconsistencies, because of the flawed messaging and the messaging coming across that's been inconsistent, I think that you pretty much lost the trust of the American population moving forward, and I don't think you're ever going to get that back. I think coming from what Aaron Rodgers did, I think speaking of Aaron Rodgers, they moving to politics. But speaking from the sports world, I was actually very disappointed in Aaron Rodgers, and I was more disappointed in how the media treated that situation.
Yeah.
I think the media in one place is doing a disservice because they don't care about the pandemic. They don't care about and the messaging. They don't care about people doing well. They care about dollars and making and getting and making more money.
Yeah.
So while on one hand, instead of saying that, which I've definitely heard people talking about this, but instead of saying that 95% of the Packers players are vaccinated and that's good and it's okay, you don't need it, you focus on the one. You've seen this with Kyrie Irving with the Nets and his. I do respect Kyrie Irving for being upfront and not giving inconsistent messaging and saying that I am not vaccinated because of X, Y, and Z. And he took flack for it, and that's his opinion. But Aaron Rodgers' situation was unfortunate because, yes, he lied, but I think the blowback was they spent so much time focusing on the lie instead of focusing on why is he not vaccinated? What's the issues? He said that he's allergic to the mRNA. mRNA, something in the vaccine.
Vaccine, yeah, the mRNA, yeah, that's right.
Excuse me, mRNA.
Yep,
he's allergic to it. And then he said the J&J. He said he doesn't trust it. Well, the media should have taken that and said, that's totally your opinion, but FYI for people, for J&J, here are the reasons why we should trust this vaccine. And so a lot of times is you're just running with the story and try to focus on the negative without actually turning that into a positive. And with brands, specifically when you're working with these either different athletes or different sports stars, or even you need a positioning on it, brands should really just be giving the facts and giving what we know so far, instead of either saying like you need to get it or because of it's safe and then changing your opinion the next day. So I think that's that for the athletes. And then for politics, the Democrats blew it. I think we said that. And actually, if you guys go back to the episode last week, one of the highlights from Marketer Pitch season 1, I said about the Democrats, and I said that that was one of my favorite moments, and I definitely said they're making mistakes going into this year, and I'm seeing the same pattern. So I predicted it, but they blew it. It always goes back to messaging, and I say we can all learn a lesson when we're working with our clients and we're working with different brands. Is if your messaging is not getting through to the actual people who's designed to go through, it's worthless. And the Democrats have proved time and time again that their messaging is broken, and they refuse to fix it. They're not seeing on the ground. They're not seeing where people are coming from. They're not seeing where the concerns people are having. They're not seeing that people are actually scared and don't know who to believe, don't know who to trust. And they're not showing examples of when people say I don't like the vaccine because I think the long-term effects. Instead of saying that, yes, there will be no long-term effects because your vaccine comes out of your body very quickly, and so on and so forth and so on. They focus on, well, this person doesn't want to get a vaccination because they're crazy, or instead of saying that people say like, I don't. We never have a history of developing fast vaccines, except the media explaining, okay, developing a fast vaccine is very safe. And we've come a long way from a scientific perspective where we can develop vaccines quicker. So that information, that messaging is not becoming across. And I definitely think that until we start seeing consistent, truthful messaging that's actually developed with science and labeled with facts instead of seeing just a way to make another dollar or a quick buck, we're not going to see anything. Things are not going to get better.
Corey, you took the words right out of my mouth. And as a communicator myself, I cannot help but feel very puzzled as to, how disembogulated and out of control the misinformation sphere has truly become. I think, as marketers and as communicators, if we need to analyze, the spectrum of the land, is that we have not been doing our jobs from a factual standpoint to truly deliver the real truth, the actual facts to help the public make credible and and critical thinking type decisions. I think what has become abundantly clear from a narrative standpoint, it is all simply about control. Many people are consuming all different types of mainstream media on a daily basis, but and again, we have to be, as PR practitioners, we need to be realistic and brutally honest with ourselves. The general public no longer trusts the corporate mainstream media anymore. I say probably about 98% of Americans, and again, that's my respective opinion. And again, everybody, can look up, those data and, make their own assumptions. But, the majority of Americans no longer trust the media institution anymore. Why? Because it's filled with propaganda. That is why, the narrative has been concocted in a way that, that inspires fear and not empathy and truth. And most of the time is due to because of profit and for ratings. And so, what has become this situation is that both of these intersections are coming together to the point where now many people are no longer, can no longer trust the mainstream media because it spews garbage, on a daily basis. And again, we have to be, again, reiterating the fact that we need to be brutally honest, in how the messaging, goes out to these medias on a daily basis. Everybody is itching for independent media. They want something different outside the communication spectrum. And I think brands are also realizing that because of the decline of the mainstream media and its perception, many people are now looking at other avenues to consume the news. And so we need to figure out ways as to how can we win back the public's trust through facts and truth. We talk about the importance of authenticity in the communications world and the importance about making meaningful connections in order to establish credibility. Now, looking at this from two sides of the spectrum. So from the sports perspective, with Aaron Rodgers, again, it's sad, and disappointing with the fact that he lied in the first place, knowing the reaction that he was that he was going to get. He should have been honest from the very beginning, as to what his status is. But second, it has been incredibly, disheartening to see the media just pile on him, making him look like, like the bad guy just because, Rodgers had some legit, had some concerns. Again, take it with a grain of salt, whatever way you want, of his reasoning behind why he didn't, take the vaccines. I mean, if you want to look at it from a scientific standpoint, we have to make these assertions that these vaccines were rolled out very quickly. Typically, it takes about 5 years, for these vaccines to get tested out on a daily basis, over and over and over again, tested to ensure that it's safe for public consumption. but these vaccines were rolled out very quickly, due to the constant the evolution of this pandemic. But we also have to understand that we're still learning more about this virus, and there is not enough information, for us to get a full grasp as to what potency these vaccines are truly capable of. Does it fully protect the public 100% from the virus? No, but does it stop you from getting any worse and preventing you from going to the hospital? Yes. And so news broadcasters are going to have to be honest, with the vaccines, and as well as elaborating alternative findings, for people to take in case if people don't want to take these vaccines, such as natural immunity. And so everything about about this vaccine and the rollout and the overall messaging of it has been a mess from the very beginning, and it's going to continue to do so unless people actually start coming up with a much more cohesive, correct message that the public can understand better. That's number one. Number two, from a political standpoint, I don't know, Corey, the DNC should hire you and be their communications consultant, and in some capacity, because
I'll be fired the same day when I give my real opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same. I mean, if people don't like, I think that's also part of the problem, is the fact that many people, don't like to hear the brutal truth, the real reality of what's going on. It's very heavily narrative based, and that's why it has become so tribal, to the point of no return, where if you do give off a negative or an opposite opinion, you're going to be labeled as a grifter or every other negative saying in the book, which is absolutely incorrect and aberrant. But we knew from the very beginning that the Democrat faction has a major messaging problem, from that, not only from that standpoint, but also from a policy basis, where, let's be legitimately honest, what have the Democrats done, from a policy standpoint, to help ordinary Americans? Nothing. They have done absolutely nothing. And we also, as Americans, need to have, a realistic mindset that in order for us to address the issues that need to be addressed, we need to start truly tackling the problems that are in place right now. And so for us marketers and communicators, from a political standpoint, we need to figure out, okay, we need to start talking about policies that everyday Americans care about the most, and start educating them further. We need to start truly tackling all of these important policy issues from the root on. And if it means overhauling everything, then so be it. But until the Democrat faction is so egotistic in not being able to learn and be held accountable for their actions from a messaging standpoint, they're going to continue to lose. And so we already know that the Republican faction is, there's no, they've gone down the tube of no return. They're also equally as, they're also equally as bad. But from a messaging standpoint, at least they're, they're cohesive, even though it's mostly negative. But but I'll wrap it up with this, saying that this entire environment is not going to change overnight, and we are heading down a very slippery slope. And if communicators and marketers figure out ways as to how to win back the public's trust, not only on the COVID-19 pandemic, but other important societal issues, we are going to continue going down this very dark hole, to the point where eventually it's going to be hit a boiling point. You cannot continue to lie to the public and continue establishing narratives that at the end of the day is going to fulfill your goals, which most of the time it's financial. Until there's an epiphany, we need to do our jobs and figure out ways as to how do we bring out credible information and start reestablishing the public's trust.
And that, I think, is probably one way we're going to have to end the show. But I think it's one area where We need people to I would say your guess is as good as mine because I don't know how brands are going to and how different factions, whether it's politicians or companies, are really going to switch the messaging and start moving forward because we definitely need to because the current path where we're going is very destructive.
And and there's definitely going to be even more conversations about this, as we move forward. So definitely keep the pulse, in the trends news because this is definitely not going away anytime soon. So we here at Marketer Pitch are going to continue having those conversations and keeping our eyes open.
Agree.
And so that ends our double course, both the entree and the dessert. Corey, didn't I tell you this was going? It was going to be a very packed double meal.
I'm like so full, but this is good. It's one of my favorite ones this so far this season. I can say that.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I think we both came out equally satisfied with our meal. And so with that, our fellow Marketer Pitch audience, thank you so much for tuning into season 2, episode 4. I cannot believe it, but we are now just 2 episodes away from the first half of season 2. My, how time flies.
Let's go. It's going by so fast.
And so with that, thank you so much, Corey, for another exciting and insightful episode. Thank you to our audience. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Marketer Pitch. Email us with any comments or suggestions about this episode or previous ones, and as well as any kind of recommendations as to you want to see from a topics and guest standpoint at marketerpitch@gmail.com. Follow this episode as well as all past Marketer Pitch volumes are available across major broadcasting mediums on the YouTube channel and Thursday mornings on the Helium Network. And don't forget, download the Wisdom app and visit us at our official page at Marketer Pitch, where Corey and I will be making our presence felt, and we're going to continue having those in-depth conversations on that platform. So, Corey, any last words before we put a bow on this episode?
No, I think it was a great conversation, and I really do want to hear your feedback. So just let us know and email us, tweet us, DM us, but definitely give us your opinions.
And so that wraps up season 2, episode 4, aka volume 16 of Market or Pitch. We are very much looking forward to seeing you on our next episode of volume 17, aka episode 5 of Market or Pitch. Take care, everyone.
Bye.